Hey, so do you ever feel like you just don't get it and everyone else does? Do you ever feel like a loser, an imposter, inadequate, stupid, insecure, or like you just can't keep up with the world's expectations? Do you ever feel like you just can't stop making mistakes? The same mistakes you always have. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. And we can get so exhausted by all of it, and it can lead people to anxiety, depression, even suicidality, um, all kinds of different things. Well, I talked to God about this today because so many people I see and know as a therapist and just as a human being can feel this way at one time or another, or often, including me and my daughter, can often feel this way. And I don't know about you, I'm really good at then recounting my mistakes and embarrassing moments or shameful moments and thinking about how I just can't seem to get it or fit into like what the world is needing me to be. And it causes me a lot of existential thinking actually. But I did talk to Jesus about this because he's going to be my go-to when I don't know what to do. And I asked Jesus, have you ever felt this way yourself? I assume that since you're God, no, you probably haven't felt insecure or inadequate because he's God after all. And before I share what he wants some of us to know about feeling less than everyone, I want to share with you some areas where he also felt low, just in considering scripture, kind of just talking to him, thinking about these things. I'm thinking about when he was tempted in the desert by Satan, and he was starving for 40 days. Um, and this was directly after God declared that he's his son after Jesus was baptized. And then considering that he'd healed so many thousands of people, he helped prostitutes, he cast out demons, he touched people who had skin diseases that nobody else would touch. He showed deep interest and compassion and deep love for all people of all walks of life, those who are meek and weak and rejected. And then he was arrested and spit on and made to be naked, and they stole his clothes and they cast lots on his clothes, and then they put a crown of thorns on his head, and he was tortured, he was whipped, and then he was rejected by the very ones he had helped. And then he was hung on a cross to die. And in the time that he was on the cross, he was separated from his father. Um, and in that moment, he took on all the mistakes and all the shame of every human, past, present, and into the future, for those who would believe on him. And yes, he does know what it's like not to be like everyone else. He was made to be foolish, stupid, silly, inadequate, and insecure. He knows what it's like to not be able to keep up with the world's expectations. People in his time thought that he was going to be their fearless leader and help them against Rome, but he ended up just dying on the cross for their sins, and of course resurrecting 3 days later. But he was not what people expected him or wanted him to be. He couldn't meet their expectations. So, for all the mistakes that you just can't stop making, and for all the times that you dredge up your past or feel like a loser now, he felt the impact of those on the cross nearly 2,000 years ago. He already knew that you were going to feel those things, or that you were going to just keep sinning, or making the same mistakes. And when he was separated from his father on the cross, he said the words, you probably remember, Father, why have you forsaken me? And he was made to feel the full impact of shame, of the shame of mankind. And Jesus also led me to these verses for further answers about our feelings of inadequacy as humans, and his deep and ongoing compassion for those of us who feel like we just don't get it, like we're not meant to be here, we don't understand this place. I like that joke. Life is like a chess game, and I don't know how to play chess. I put that on my social media account a long time ago. Just sometimes that's how this world can make me feel, and I know it can make other people feel that way because I know it because they sit on my couch every day as a therapist. But I want to remind you that Matthew 5, 1 through 11 says, seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So the poor in spirit, those of us who don't feel like we can understand it, those of us who feel like we can't stop sinning on our own, we can't stop making mistakes, we need help. Those are the poor in spirit, and theirs is the kingdom of heaven, he says. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. And today I was just going over and over all the mistakes I've made this week, and I don't like it. And I'm really down on myself, and that shame stuff can really come up. But it says right here, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. It's like he knows that you're one of his people that are going, I don't like this. And today he was awesome. I was swimming laps, and he joined me in my laps, and he ministered to me somehow, because I have these worship songs suddenly in my head about his holiness, and I'm just like floored that he would take the time to hang out with me and remind me of his grace. And then, blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God, or daughters of God, right? Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets that were before you. And they persecuted him. They persecuted Jesus, right? So sometimes if you feel like you're not getting it and you're kind of an alien to this world, it can sometimes be, if you have chosen to be with the Lord, that it doesn't feel like you belong here. And for those of us who don't, or for those who do not choose to be a believer, sometimes you feel that way too. You feel like, I don't know how to do this here, and there's something to that. And I would just poke into your intuition about that, your spirit about that. Like, what is it about this place? I don't feel like I belong here. And Matthew 11:11 says, truly I say to you, among those born of women, there are no one greater than John the Baptist. Yet the one who is least in the kingdom of heaven is even greater than he. And then, Matthew 20:16 says, for the last will be first, and the first will be last. So that's kind of what that Matthew 11:11 is talking about too. Even though you're great here, and you can be glorified on earth, and you can be praised by people on earth, he's pretty clear about you will be you might be last in heaven. Well, it says, for the first will be last, and the last will be first. So he's kind of a direct thing there. Matthew 11:25-30. At that time, Jesus declared, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding, meaning that those who think they have it all together without God, and revealed them to the little children, meaning simple faith. Father, for such is your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. And no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, Jesus, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my burden upon you and learn from me. I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So he's saying, hey, exchange this heavy burden that the world is putting on your shoulders, all of your sense of insecurity and inadequacy, and you can't do it, and you can't get it right. And if you feel that way, he's saying, exchange this with me, because I know that I need, all who labor and are heavy laden. He knows you're heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And he says, I'm gentle and lowly in heart. So he's gentle. He's not maybe one of these people you're assuming is put all these expectations over you, and he's lowly in heart. And we can remember in that way that he was lowly in heart on earth. He was born in a stable to a poor carpenter, and a 16-year-old girl, and had to run for his life when he was very young. And he isn't exactly giving the statement that you must be exquisite to follow him, but to have a simple faith. And let me just further nerd out, and then I'll let you go here for a minute and show you my favorite book. This is called You Are Special by Max Lucado, and it is about how God can give you a sense of identity and help you understand how special you are, even if you're not talented and brave and beautiful and all the things that the world might make you feel like you need to be. If you're struggling, I would really recommend that. I know it's a kid's book, but it's my favorite book, and I am just really moved by it every time I read it. It will probably touch you on a pretty deep level. So if you're struggling with depression or anxiety, please reach out to a professional counselor that you trust if you need to do that. I don't think God expected us to do this life without the support of others on like our team, like Team Andy, um, and that can look like friends, that can look like support groups, that can look like counselors, that can look like small groups at church, anything like that. Like trying to get that support group around you to like keep you going. Jesus says that he doesn't want us to leave this earth early, but he wants us to become sanctified in the midst of difficulty. And I don't have the reference for that right away, but that is his heart for us. He wants us to be comforted by him. He is the comforter. He is the giver of peace. He's the Prince of Peace. So hopefully that's encouraging to you, as it was to me as I brought those concerns to him today. So you take care as you journey with courage, and do it in the courage of God if you can't find it within yourself. So thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.